Yeah, we're into the postseason. Once we get through the playoffs, then we'll have, at this point in time, it's about to happen, the NBA rookie camp by invite only in Chicago. They've started something new called NBA G League camp. I don't understand this. Aztecs, San Diego State, power forward, All-American Jaedon LeDee did not get invited to Chicago's NBA rookie camp. Did not get invited. It makes no sense at all based on who he was, how well he played, how he carried the thing, etc. He is now instead, he's going to the NBA G League mini camp, which would be for the next level down. I thought Jaedon LeDee was a back-end first-round guy, power forward, or maybe into the second round. Well, the G League is just for, quote, refugees. The last group that filed to go into the draft that probably doesn't have much of a chance. Now, he may go into the G League thing and play pretty well, but there's not a lot of history of guys who went to the G League draft camp getting an invite then to the next big camp in Chicago. How you could not include Jaedon LeDee with the 79 players named to the NBA draft camp? What a disservice to a really fine basketball player. And that second name there on that board. So we're not taking LeDee, but we're inviting Bronny James to the NBA draft camp.
Right.
When we had the Ivy League scandals, the legacy thing, your dad went to Harvard, therefore you'll get admitted to Harvard. Is legacy the correct word?
That's the right word.
Okay. So Bronny James averaging 4 points a game, who can't start at USC, given the job because of injuries, and can't hold a job, and gets benched. Bronny James is, quote, a legacy invite to the draft camp, but not Jaedon LeDee, who carried San Diego State to a near 30-win season. Boy, there's no justice there. I don't know the rest of the story yet. Maybe it'll come out, but this looks like this parting of the ways at San Diego State with power forward Elijah Saunders was not easy and was not good. And there's some animosity there. And he keeps dropping hints on social media that the program you see is not what the program really is inside. So there's something going on there. I don't know whether it's financial, whether it's NIL money jealousy. There's something not right at San Diego State, according to Elijah Saunders. And Saunders visited Virginia and has already visited the University of Washington. He's got a couple more visits, Clemson, and I think there's somebody else on the Southeastern Conference. So the Saunders story is still out there yet to be told. Remember the name Tony Bland? He was one of the first transfers that Steve Fisher brought in as they tried to rebuild San Diego State. He came from Syracuse. Well, he had a very solid career, wasn't a superstar, wasn't an All-American, but played pretty well. Anyhow, got into coaching at a very young age and moved around a lot, was at San Diego State as a Fisher assistant, wound up at USC, and he got caught in this NCAA investigation about bribes, taking bribes to deliver players to marketing agents while they were still in school. He got suspended for 3 years from USC by the NCAA. That suspension is over. I mean, it crushed his career. He lost his money. He lost his job. He wound up coaching part-time at high school. Anyhow, he just got hired by the new coaching staff at the University of Washington. And that's interesting because normally when those guys get suspended by the NCAA, you need a show cause order. You can't get hired. Nobody will touch you because you're toxic. These guys normally don't resurface, but Tony Bland has resurfaced. And I'll tell you what, I'm waiting for the NBA to drop the hammer on this guy. And I like Patrick Beverly, and I like his attitude and how to play defense. And he just walks around throwing gasoline on fires. But what he did at the end of the Milwaukee Bucks-Indiana series is deplorable. At the end, and there's no doubt that Pacer fans are all over him because he's an agitator. And he said, I responded because they were cursing us out the whole game, blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, he took a basketball and he threw it into the stands at a heckler and hit a woman. Somebody picked the ball up, threw it back to the bench. He picked it up and fired it back into the stands and hit the guy a second time. Then post-game scrum press conference in the locker room. So he's surrounded by the working media covering the game, and they're going to ask him questions. And he's got a podcast that he does, kind of a loudmouth podcast. So some woman reporter from ESPN is standing right there with a mic. She has every right to be in that locker room. She's accredited, as is everybody else. And she asks a question. He looks at her and says, I'm not answering your questions. Do you subscribe to my podcast? Well, you don't subscribe to my podcast? I'm not answering your question. So he looks over to a beat writer who obviously subscribes, and the guy starts to ask him the same question. She starts to answer it. She sticks his mic in, and he says, "Take that mic out. You can leave. You're not going to be part of this press conference." I mean, he bullied her. It was really crappy. And I'm kind of disappointed at the guys that were there in that circle. Somebody should have stood up and looked Patrick Beverly in the face and said, "We're here doing our job. I'm credentialed. She's credentialed. You talk to all of us. How dare you do that to the media?" He's going to get hammered by the NBA. And I'll tell you, social media has just lit a fire around him, including a lot of marquee name guys on social media that he deals with. So a lot of junk off the floor. So LeDee, Bronny, the real story with Saunders, Tony Bland, and what Patrick Beverly just did, setting himself on fire.
Well, just quick hits here. I think LeDee is part of the problem with him is he's 24. He's older. And I'm wondering if NBA scouts are thinking that he's kind of at the peak. He's not going to continue to grow and build. That's my hunch. And then just to go quickly down the list, Bronny, it's like you always say, nepotism is great.
If you're on the receiving end.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Legacy things don't fly with me. I'm sorry. Next, go ahead, John.
Okay. Elijah, my hunch is that with the new transfers coming in, that kid from Middle Tennessee State, maybe they were saying, your time is going to be, your playing minutes might be limited or capped. That's my hunch.
No, but they went out and got Jones, the 6'10" transfer center, Middle Tennessee. He's in the pink guy.
Okay, he's a 5.
Yeah, but they got him after Elijah announced he was exiting.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I think this has got something to do with NIL money. Tony Bland.
I mean, I remember when Aztecs got him, we were like, oh, we got a Power 5 guy here playing at San Diego State. I'm shocked that he was hired again. I mean, he was so disgraced at USC. And then, the last name on the list, Patrick Beverly, such a pest, but the funny part of it is when you said, oh yeah, he's got a podcast, a loudmouth podcast. And I'm sitting here thinking, who do I know that has a loudmouth podcast?
You ever see anybody set yourself on fire like that?
Yeah.
He's in trouble. He's in big trouble with the league office.
Yeah. I mean, he's played for the Clippers.
He's played everywhere.
Does he play for the Lakers too?
Yes, he's been around, and maybe it's a short-term rental because you only tolerate so much of him. But as a role player, I just think he's feisty. I think he's a hell of a catalyst, and you're glad you're on his team because if he was on the other team, he'd be pissing you off. But for him to do this with the fans, you just don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, did nobody learn anything from the Malice in the Palace with the Detroit Bad Boys?
Yeah,
and. The media, shame on the guys in that media scrum that did not step up on behalf of that woman. She got every right to be there. And I've done that with a couple of female reporters that I thought were kind of being treated shabbily in the Padre clubhouse. And I interceded and said, she has a right to be here. We're doing our job. So shame. Nobody stepped up on behalf of her. Now, he has since apologized, but I'm sorry. You set yourself on fire.
Well, there we go. Okay, let's keep moving.